Hello everybody. So the very last video that you just watched, the one that's below this, hopefully you watched it, that was my very first film. I'm going to give you all a little breakdown of how we kind of made that and what we did with the next film to make it better, where I will also show y'all the trailer for my new film, Veil. So first off, I had made Psychosis back in high school. I was in my theater class, and we kind of have these things where they're in-class plays, and students will write a 5, 6, 7-minute story, and they will cast people to be students to be in it. So the whole thing's written by students, made by students, production by students, all of it. When I had made that, I was just going to be the director of it, but the person that I had cast for Andre, she got sick, and she said that she really couldn't do it. So I had to make the choice of canceling it, so it wouldn't be shown as an in-class play, or I would star in it. Me thinking, oh, I wrote this thing. I think I have the line down pretty well. That turned out not to be the case. What had happened was when we had started the in-class play, I got maybe 2 or 3 lines down, and then I proceeded to skip 4 pages by pure accident. I was so embarrassed with myself that I looked at my supporting actor and saw that he was trying to, with his eyes, like, please save this. Because I had skipped so far ahead, it caused him to also skip far ahead in the script. So we had left a large portion not told. Afterwards, I got a pretty big applause, and people seemed to be very pleased with it. However, I realized that I didn't tell the story exactly how I wanted to tell it, and saw that I was just so upset with it that I couldn't bear the fact that I failed so poorly on that. After the in-class play, I was sitting in one of the auditorium chairs, and keep in mind the auditorium is roughly 600 or 700 people, like holds that many people. So I had whiffed a huge in-class play with a ton of my peers, about 600 of them at least. And I was just so embarrassed. It was such an embarrassing moment. But while I was sitting in like the front row after everything was done, a few of the theater kids who's been in like actual plays with the theater teacher, they're like, oh wow, that was really good. You did such a great job. It was a great performance. And I was just like, I skipped so many lines, and I forgot to do the one scene, and I forgot to do this part. It would have just made so much more sense if I would have just gone with it. They all said like, oh, we didn't even notice that, but something inside of me was like, I gotta get a redemption on this. So after that, I was going to college, and in college I'm studying film studies, and I realize, hey, I have this in-class play script still. Why don't I just update it to get some better lines and some better acting and fit the scene better? So why don't I just turn this into a movie? Keep in mind, the page, like the amount of pages, there's 7 pages, including the title page. So that means the movie should be like 6 or 7 minutes long. The video that's below this, that's 12 minutes long. I don't know how I managed to do that, but I had a similar situation. I doubled the time. And I had a similar situation happen with Veil. Veil is 12 pages long, meaning it should only be 12 minutes or 13 minutes long, and I turned it into a 25-minute movie. I don't know how I'm doing this. It just kind of happens. But that's the very beginning of Psychosis. So when we had started filming, it was November time, it was August time in college, and I had gotten a buddy from my math class to be Andre. I was originally going to be Darian if I couldn't find somebody, and it was every day it was looking more and more like I was about to be Darian, until I remembered another high school buddy of mine goes to the same college. He's a few years ahead of me, but I remember I was at the gym, and I kind of pitched it to him. I was like, hey, I have this in class play that I'm turning into a film, and I want you to be in it. And I honestly understand the fact of pitching to your friends a movie idea because they are solely trusting you off of your vision, and they kind of expect it to do well, right? They kind of trust that this is going to be something big and that you're going to be professional about it. But Psychosis was nothing short of, it wasn't close to being a professional film, honestly. We tried to think like it was, but we were not anywhere near close to it. And he looks at me and he's like, well, what's it about? And I was like, well, it's basically these two people are having a conversation. As they keep talking to each other, they go at each other's throats of like, who's really insane? Are you trying? I'm almost sure I pitched it very poorly, and shockingly, he said yes. And I was like, huh. Yeah, I'd love to have you in it. I'll give you the script tomorrow, because I fully believe if you actually hand somebody some physical media, they're going to trust you and believe you a lot more than if you just continue to pitch what's up here. Because I have a difficulty explaining that. And even with Veil, something that I've worked 6 months on, I know like the synopsis of it, but like I don't want to spoil anything in the synopsis. So I like say it vaguely, and because I said it vaguely, it just doesn't look like I know what I'm saying. So I had pitched Psychosis vaguely without trying to spoil it. And in doing so, I think I made it look very vague of like my knowledge of understanding. But luckily he trusted me and he was like, yes, I'll do it. He read through it, loved it. The guy that I met in my math class loved it. Then the next thing that we needed to do was get a camera, get some producers to help make this thing, and then make sure everybody knew their lines. So equipment-wise, I had gone to the library and found out there's this thing called the Studio Maker, which is essentially a spot where you can you can rent with your little access card they give you, cameras and equipment and film stuff. Now, when I say that, your mind probably went to, ooh, yeah, you get to check out a nice camera, a pretty good mic, a boom arm, some professional lights. The lights that are lighting me up right now are professional lights. The lights that I had that we were going to use were not professional lights. They were like cheap TikTok lights. The camera was from 2012. It was a DSLR camera or DLSR camera or one of those. It had a mirror in it, and it was very bad at doing video. It was full frame. That was the only good thing about it. It was full frame. And it was like it was a Lumix. It was from like 2012. And the microphone they gave us was like a Rode mic, but it didn't really work. Because every time I plugged it into the camera, I don't know if it was the camera or if it was the mic itself, it would kind of adjust its gain kind of very rapidly. So it would be like this, back and forth, and it would cut out. It was very gross, as you can barely hear what was going on. It was very weird. So another thing I should mention is you could only have that equipment for about a week. I asked for an extension. They gave it to me for 2 weeks. Even after 2 weeks, we didn't finish filming Psychosis. We didn't finish filming Psychosis until 3 months later. And now let me explain why. Is because we jumped from camera to camera. We had that DLSR camera. We filmed about halfway of the footage, and we were like, wow, this looks terrible. I didn't know what a white balance was. I didn't know what the shutter speed was. The only thing that I really knew was aperture, and that I wanted a really low aperture. I didn't even know about frame sizes, like crop sensors, full frame sensors, medium format sensors, DLSR, mirrorless. I didn't know all of that. And I kind of wish I still had the footage of the first camera, because it looked terrible. Oh my gosh, it was absolutely embarrassing. It wasn't until like recently too, I should mention, that I didn't know SD cards were different. Like the SD card that's in that camera, that's a V9 or V90, 128 gigabyte SD card. But when I was filming Psychosis, I used this SD card right here. It's a micro SD card with an adapter, and it's a V30, And I had bought this back when I had my employee discount. It's an Extreme Plus 128 V30. I have another card that's just, it doesn't have any V's on it. There's no 30, there's no 790 V's on it. It's also a micro SD card, but it's just a standard one, standard 128. I didn't know there was different variations of SD card, is what I'm trying to say. Because there's like different bit rates that you can use for them. And long story short, we used 3 different cameras for Psychosis. And we did several reshoots. I mean several, because I would edit them before I put them all together in the movie. And I was like, oh, I need you to say this like this. I need you to say this like this. I need you to move your hands. And I was kept critiquing them because it was their first work. They didn't really know what they were doing. I sure as hell didn't know what I was doing. And my producer, she didn't know what the hell she was doing. We were all pretty lost, okay? I will comfortably say that we didn't know what we were doing. But because that's behind me now, I can look back and laugh on it. So I was learning color grading, and I am very fond of the idea of visual storytelling as well as colors being or having some type of meaning in the movie. Green is kind of like a disgusting, gross, grotesque, dark color. And Psychosis, it's green. All of it's green. I wanted it to be that gross green. Until the very last scene where he goes to the insane asylum and it's a little less green because that's the real world. I hate the idea of student films making something super symbolic or metaphorical and they lose the aspect of filmmaking in that process. Once you start making something that's too metaphorical or too symbolic, it just becomes experimental. And I know so many people, countless people, a majority of people hate experimental movies. Judges also hate experimental movies because if you send a 20 to 25 minute film and it's like a leaf blowing in the wind and it somehow correlates with like duality and some type of thing, but there's no dialogue and you can't explain any of that, and it's shot with your phone with like the shutter speed set to 240 where the frame rate is 24 frames and it's just like weirdly choppy, it just looks gross, okay? A lot of people don't understand that. You can take your phone and film a movie. Yes, you can. However, when you go like this and you hit FPS and set it to 24, your shutter speed is still automatic, so it's going to look weird and gross. You have to double your shutter speed so that you can have the smooth motion blur. This is in 60 frames a second, so this is set to 120 shutter speed. That's why you see the natural motion blur. Whereas if the shutter speed was different, it looks very different. All I did was change the shutter speed. The shutter speed is weird. There's no motion blur. It's So it's stuff like that you kind of have to understand before you go into the process of filmmaking. And what I just said, I have been in 2 film classes and we haven't done any of that. Both of my film classes have been structured around writing and stuff, not even scripts, just writing pointless stuff in general. My first film class, we would have like local people, filmmakers come and do a virtual meeting, and they would talk about their personal experiences with movie making or whatever, and they had like a Vimeo thing at the very end. Oh my god, that was so boring. It was very boring. Because they would just talk about their own experiences, and then we'd have to write like a full page of like how they mean to us or like how cool or cooler they are. It was genuinely the most boring class ever. Like, I pay thousands of dollars for college. Why are you making me do this? This is pointless. I fundamentally, and according to like school standards, I don't understand how to make a set of script. I don't know the proper format. I sort of have a layout. This is how Veil looked. That's just what I have. I don't know if this is exactly perfect because I take parts from my theater class that help that I know how to write a play, so I know how to do the stage actions and stage directions on that. So I might incorporate a little bit of play and a little bit of movie format into this, but this is just what Veil looked like. I would write the stage directions so incredibly specific because I was the director. All I was trying to do was remember how I wanted that scene to play out. Or if I had a great idea in the moment of processing it, I would be writing it down in the stage directions because I wanted to replicate that later on and just remember that. I'll show you what Psychosis looked like. It didn't look like that. Here's Psychosis. Dr. Andre, Darian, Warden, background shadows. I gave this to everybody. This is what I gave them. Not only did my friends trust me into giving them a solid script, they trusted me to know my shit. And quite frankly, I still don't, okay? I'll be fully honest. My second film class, we watched movies, and I'm still so mad at her because she showed us the worst movies ever. Movies I've never heard of. I didn't watch a single Hollywood movie in there because she wanted to be weird and play movies that nobody's ever heard of. I don't know what her game was. She was also being investigated at the time because they didn't know if that curriculum was meant for film students. So she was being investigated. That's all I'll say. She told us that at the very beginning of the semester, where she was like, oh, we can't share this publicly because it's being in the process of being reviewed by the council or something to make sure that we can actually show this stuff. So my very first 2 film classes have not been good. So I've taken it upon myself to write my scripts, to make my stories, to figure this shit out on myself, buy my camera, buy my equipment, buy my mic, all of this stuff I have bought myself. So I think I've told a majority of Psychosis, and now I'm going to segue into Veil. Psychosis was my very first film. It was done on a $0 budget. Okay. Veil, however, is my second piece. And I wanted to tell an actual story because, believe it or not, I got some pretty cool ideas up here. All right. Some of them are, they can be in one room, or I could create an entire fictional world. And because you're creating an entire fictional world, you can do whatever the hell you want in there. That's where the fun is, okay? However, I have to be very cautious because, like I've mentioned, Veil is currently in the film festival circuit right now, meaning I'm waiting to hear back from festivals to see if it's selected or not. So far, it's in 12 festivals. And Psychosis, I submitted to 30 or 35 festivals. I didn't get into a lot of them. I only got into 5 festivals, but granted, 5 festivals is a pretty comfortable number for Psychosis. And it won 2 awards, one for Best Cinematography and one for Best Story, I believe it was. It was like a little laurel or something. No physical awards for me yet. But the huge thing that came from Psychosis was the fact that it was broadcasted internationally. One of the festivals I had submitted to has a parent company called EDI Media, and they would broadcast. They're stationed in LA, so they would broadcast the film festival live in LA. But because it was international, you could watch it on Roku, on Fire Stick TV, on Prime, I think on a few other outlets, and I was very happy. Now, with Veil, I just started putting it into film festivals, so I have to wait a couple months before they start getting back to me. But Veil is much more story-driven, it's a huger scale, it's a huger budget, and it's a lot better acting, and honestly, every single aspect about it I feel like is better, but I keep seeing the failing parts of it. There's a full mic in frame that I've told everybody, and they're like, oh, I don't see it. but I see it every single time when I watch it. I see that damn microphone. It's just the small things that nobody would ever be really paying attention for, but I still see them. So with what I've mentioned with Veil, I have to wait because every single aspect I know has changed from Psychosis. I think Veil outperforms Psychosis in almost every single way. With that theory, the only difference between those two films is time. Psychosis is 12 minutes long, where Veil is 25 minutes long. Now, a lot of film festivals do not like long, short films. So my theory would be if Veil does not get into a lot of festivals, the main culprit would be because of the time slot. I know a lot of film festivals, they try and fit as many films into their festival as possible, and they are going to take 4 5-minute films over a really good 20-minute film. Or I shouldn't say really good 20-minute film, because they have allotted time slots for like what they could fit into their festival. So if they can fit more media versus somebody that's like with a 20-minute movie, they're going to take the other films, right? And that brings me to my next topic of the movie after this. So I'm writing 2 scripts right now. One is called Persona, and one is called Rust. Persona is about 6 to 7 minutes long, and Rust is possibly going to be a feature-length film, but I will not start making any of those until I see where Veil goes. If Veil does well, then I know that I can make a long-form, either long short film or a feature-length film. The only problem with feature-length films is I have to start paying for a lot more submissions because it just gets expensive. It really does. Like a festival is like $50, $30, $20, $50, $50. It's $60. It's a lot, okay? So I have to be weary of how much money I put into a feature-length film because that's money going out of where I would be submitting it to other festivals. Veil we made with $200, and if I apply that same logic, my next film would almost be $0 or $200 again. Filmmaking is not cheap. I completely understand that, and I'm not. I even hate when we were making Veil. I hated asking my buddies for money because I was like, if we all pool our money together, we can get this stuff and understand like what we're gonna do. And they were all fully supportive. They were like, yes, let's do it. So I'm very thankful for that, but I'm also hoping that Veil does well so I can repay them, because each of us had chipped in like $50 or $60. Some of us paid a little bit more than we would like, me included. With Veil, we've also done several reshoots. We reshot almost every single scene, and we've also changed cameras. The camera we used for Psychosis was a Canon R8 with a 50mm autofocus lens on it. So standard EOS lens, RF lens, all of that. And we were going to use the exact same setup for Veil, but I decided not to use my buddy's camera anymore because I was just not comfortable with asking so much from them. Okay, so $2,000 later, I have my own camera, and I also have my own microphones. So I know this is like a wireless microphone, but still it did a phenomenal job at making the movie because I'd also put it through an enhanced speech thingy-mabob, like Adobe's enhanced speech, so it could add more serious tone to it. Right now, I'm just in a waiting game, honestly. I'm just playing a waiting game as I wait for Veil festivals to get back to me, and I'm waiting for like a next big idea to hit me while I'm writing these scripts, because I do believe that each film should outperform the last one. I know Veil completely crushes Psychosis, all right? Unfortunately, I will not be releasing Veil on YouTube until the next following months because it's going to take a very long time for festivals to get back to us. So why not just be patient? And kind of a lot of festivals also don't like when the film is on YouTube, because then it's kind of like not niche, and it's not selected or selective for them. So I'm just gonna be safe. I'd rather be safer than sorry, and just keep it on the film festivals for a little bit, and then I'll upload it to here. But I've been talking for about over 30 minutes, and I think it's time to go ahead and show the trailer for it. Granted, this trailer is not going to spoil anything, so you don't have to worry about it, but it will show you the level of maturity that we have in this movie, because it is very dark, it is very eerie, and at times it's gross. And I will mention that whenever you do watch this movie, viewer discretion is advised. Without further ado, let's go ahead and play the trailer.
Honestly, can't make heads or tails of it. We've had some theories of God knows what, but please, oh my gosh. I personally believe it's some art student prank of some sorts.
What the hell do you think you're doing, Pierce?
I'm on to something. You just have to trust me.